Evan Hale walked slowly across the silent market street of the ruined alien colony. Dust floated in the air, drifting like slow snow. Empty stalls stood on both sides of the broken pathway. Signs were torn, metal frames were bent, and pieces of shattered screens lay scattered everywhere. Evan had seen abandoned places before, but this one felt different. It felt heavy, as if the ground itself remembered the fear of the people who once lived here. He held his helmet under his arm and listened carefully. His boots made soft, crunching sounds on old glass. The sky above was gray, and a faint, cold wind moved through the broken buildings. He wondered if any families were still hiding somewhere in the ruins. Reports had said a few survivors remained, but no one knew how many, or if they had enough food. Evan was a young human soldier, but he already carried more responsibility than many older fighters. He believed every life deserved protection, no matter the species. His officers often said he cared too much, but Evan did not mind. To him, caring was not a weakness. It was the only thing that kept the galaxy from falling apart. He reached the center of the market and stopped. A strange sound came from behind a collapsed stall. It was very soft, almost like a whisper. Evan turned his head and listened again. The sound returned a second time, shaky and faint, like someone trying to speak after losing all strength. He slowly moved forward, lowering his hand to the side of his belt but not taking out his weapon. He did not sense danger. The voice felt more like a plea than a threat. When he reached the fallen stall, he bent down and gently pushed aside a piece of broken wood. A small figure stepped out, weak and trembling. Her skin had a smooth, pale glow, and her large eyes reflected fear and exhaustion. She looked thin, extremely thin, as if she had not eaten for many days. She held a cloth bundle close to her chest, protecting it with all the energy she had left. She looked at Evan, her voice barely more than breath as she spoke. "Please, may I have the leftovers for my child?" Her words shook, and her hands tightened around the cloth bundle. Evan's heart sank. The bundle in her arms moved slightly, and he realized she was holding an infant, tiny and delicate, hidden inside the cloth to keep it warm. He saw the mother's legs shaking. She looked ready to fall at any moment. He placed his helmet on the ground and raised both hands slowly to show he meant no harm. His voice was steady and gentle. "I have food. You and your child can have it." The alien woman blinked, confused. She stepped back a little, fear flickering across her face. Her people had been told that humans did not help outsiders. She had grown up hearing countless warnings. Humans were dangerous. Humans were cold. Humans would never share food. Now she saw a human offering help, but her fear stopped her from trusting him. Evan took out a small metal pack and placed it on the ground between them. He opened it so she could see what was inside. Warm emergency rations released a soft smell. Nothing fancy, but enough to save a starving person. He pushed the pack a little closer to her. "I won't touch you. The food is for you and your baby. You need it more than I do." She stared at the food with wide eyes. She took one small step forward, then froze. Her child whimpered quietly, a soft, weak sound. That broke the final piece of hesitation in her heart. She knelt down slowly and picked up the pack, but she did not open it for herself. She opened it for the infant first, letting the tiny mouth drink from the nutrient tube. Evan watched in silence. He could see the love in her tired eyes. She had gone without food, so her child could survive. That kind of devotion was the same in every species. When her child had taken enough, she allowed herself a small sip. Her hands trembled as she ate, and color slowly returned to her cheeks. She lifted her eyes and looked at Evan again. "You are different from what we were told." Evan gave a small smile. "Not all humans are the same. Most just want peace." She hesitated, then nodded. Her name was Lyra. She had been hiding in the ruins for days, after raiders attacked the last food transport. Many families scattered when the supply lines broke. Some fled. Some stayed. Some vanished. Lyra stayed because her child was too small to travel far. She had hoped help might come, but no one had arrived. Evan listened to her quietly, trying to understand the full picture. If raiders were blocking supplies, then the colony needed urgent assistance. But communication towers in this sector were damaged, and messages were not reaching the human base. He could not leave the colony without at least checking on the situation. He stood up and offered her the last water flask he carried. "Drink slowly," he said. "It will help your strength return." Lyra held the flask but did not drink yet. She looked around nervously, as if expecting danger. Evan followed her gaze. He saw broken buildings, dark alleys, and abandoned homes. It was a sad sight. Once this place must have been full of life. Now it was a grave of memories. "How many others are still here?" Evan asked. Lyra shook her head weakly. "I do not know. I saw families hiding 2 nights ago, but I have not heard them since. Everyone is scared. Everyone is hungry." Evan nodded slowly. If nothing changed soon, the remaining families would not survive long. He knew what he had to do. "I will find the food transport," he said, "and I will bring help." Lyra's eyes widened. "Alone. It is dangerous. The raiders take everything. They do not listen. They do not care." Evan looked at the small face of her child peeking from the cloth. The infant reached out with one tiny hand, touching the air between them. Evan felt something inside him shift. How could he walk away when a child like this depended on him? He gently touched the infant's tiny hand through his glove. It was warm and fragile. He softened his voice. "I cannot leave your people like this. If I don't go, more children will suffer." Lyra lowered her head. There was fear in her eyes, but also a small spark of hope. She had never imagined a human soldier would speak like this. The wind moved again, carrying the distant sound of metal clashing somewhere far away. Lyra flinched at the noise, holding her child close. Evan reacted quickly and stepped forward, placing himself between her and the source of the sound, just in case. "It is all right," he said calmly. "You should go back to your shelter. I will make sure you are safe. If I do not return by morning, stay hidden until the sun rises. I will leave a signal so you know it is me." Lyra stared at him. "Why are you helping us?" Evan looked at the damaged colony around them. "Because no one deserves to starve. Because you asked for help. And because your child deserves a future." Lyra held her child tighter. She took a long breath, gathering strength she thought she no longer had. Then she slowly stood and bowed her head in a small gesture of respect. "Thank you, human soldier. If you return with help, our people will never forget this kindness." Evan picked up his helmet and placed it back on his head. He activated the visor, scanning the area for signs of raider movement. The display showed heat signatures far to the west. That was the direction of the transport route. He would start there. Before leaving, he took out one last emergency ration from his pack and placed it beside Lyra. "This is for later. Make it last until I return." Lyra nodded. Her eyes softened for the first time, no longer filled only with fear. She watched as Evan stepped away from the ruins and walked toward the harsh wasteland outside the colony. The sun was sinking behind the broken towers, painting the sky with soft red light. Evan walked with steady steps. He knew the journey would be dangerous, but he also knew he could not abandon these people. The galaxy was full of conflict, mistrust, and broken promises. But today, he had a chance to make a small change. Behind him, Lyra carried her child back into the shadows of the market. Her movements were slow, but she felt stronger than before. She whispered to her child, "A human saved us today." Remember this. Evan kept walking until the colony disappeared behind him. He felt the wind grow colder. The land stretched into rocky hills, cracked ground, and scattered metal from old machines. Raiders often hid in these places, waiting for lone travelers or supply vehicles. He touched the side of his helmet and recorded a short message for his base, even if he knew it might not send. This is Private Evan Hale. Colony survivors confirmed. Critical condition. I am moving toward the blocked transport route. I will try to restore supplies. Static answered him. No clear signal. He continued anyway. His footsteps echoed softly. Each step carried the weight of responsibility, but also purpose. The night grew darker, but he did not stop. Stars appeared above, bright and sharp. He felt the quiet company of the universe as he walked. Sometimes, silence was comforting. Sometimes it gave him strength. He thought about Lyra's face, her fear turning into trust. He thought about the infant's tiny hand reaching toward him. Moments like that reminded him why he wore the uniform. Not for orders, not for medals, but for life, for hope. He walked deeper into the wasteland, heading toward the place where danger waited. Yet, in his heart, there was only determination. He would bring food back. He would protect the starving families. He would make sure the child lived to see a better day. And far behind him, in the quiet ruins of the colony, Lyra whispered a final wish into the cold night air. Please come back, human soldier. Please. Evan continued walking through the dark wasteland, with only the soft glow of his visor lighting the path ahead. The night was silent except for the cold wind that moved across the cracked ground. He felt tired, but he did not slow down. Every minute he wasted meant another minute. Lyra and her child went without help. He kept thinking about the way her knees had shaken when she stood. The way she fed the child first even though she herself had not eaten for days. He could not forget her words. Please, may I have the leftovers for my child? That voice kept pushing him forward. The horizon slowly brightened as morning approached. The sky turned a pale blue, and the rocky hills ahead became clearer. Evan increased his pace. The blocked transport route was not too far now. He hoped the raiders were still there. If they had taken the supplies and left, the colony would have even less hope. He climbed a steep hill and reached the top. From there, he finally saw it. The transport convoy sat in a deep valley between two cliffs. Several large metal trucks, once filled with food and water, were arranged in a half circle. But they were not alone. A group of raiders stood nearby, guarding the area. They were armed and looked rough, tired, and hungry themselves. They wore mismatched armor and old masks. Evan counted at least 10 of them. He crouched behind a rock and watched carefully. He could try to fight, but fighting would cause more problems. He did not want anyone to get hurt. The families in the colony needed food, not a new battle. He thought for a moment, then decided he had to try something risky. He stood and slowly walked down the hill, toward the raiders. The first raider noticed him and shouted. The others turned, weapons raised. Evan kept walking at a steady pace, hands visible, showing no intention to attack. When he reached a safe distance, he stopped and called out to them with a strong but calm voice. I am not here to fight. I want to talk. The raiders exchanged confused looks. Most travelers ran away the moment they spotted raiders. But this human soldier was walking straight toward them. They did not know what he wanted. One of them stepped forward. He was tall, with a long scar on his left cheek. He looked like the leader. He pointed his weapon at Evan. Why is a soldier here, alone? Evan lifted his visor so they could see his face. Because there are families starving in the colony behind the hills. Your team blocked the transport. They need the food. The leader laughed in disbelief. And why do you care? Human soldiers only protect their own. Evan shook his head. Not me. I help anyone who needs it. There is a mother there. She has a child. They have not eaten for 3 days. This food could save them. The raiders looked uncertain now. Some lowered their weapons slightly. The leader frowned. His voice grew rough but unsure. You expect us to believe that? We know humans lie. Evan opened the recording function on his visor. He played a short audio clip he had saved from earlier. The tiny sound of Lyra's child whimpering. The quiet cry echoed across the valley. A few raiders looked away. The sound hit them harder than Evan expected. They were raiders, yes, but they were also living beings who understood fear and hunger. Some of them probably had children of their own. The leader stepped closer. You brought proof. Why? Because I want you to understand, Evan said. I am asking you to share the supplies. Not all of it. Just enough for the families to survive. The leader's face changed. He was no longer angry. He was thinking. Evan could see it. The raiders were not monsters. They were desperate people. If the supply routes had collapsed, they were probably starving too. He understood their struggle. Hunger made people do things they never wanted to do. One of the raiders spoke up. We took the food because we had no choice. Our own camp is dying. Evan nodded. I believe you. That is why I am offering a deal. You keep a part of the supplies, enough for your group to survive, but let the rest go to the colony. The leader stared at him for a long time, studying his face. He seemed to search for a lie, for some hidden trick. But Evan stood firm, calm, and sincere. He had nothing to hide. Finally, the leader lowered his weapon. His voice was quiet now. You are strange for a human soldier. You speak like someone who has seen real pain. Evan did not smile, but his eyes softened. I have seen enough to know that suffering spreads if no one stops it. I am here to stop it. The raiders slowly lowered their weapons. The leader took a long breath and nodded. Half the supplies go to the colony, the rest we keep. Do you agree? Evan nodded. Yes, that is fair. The leader gave a short order. The raiders moved, opening the transport crates. They separated the supplies into 2 piles. Evan watched to make sure everything was done equally. When the leaders were finished, Evan approached the colony's share and activated the convoy power. The engines hummed to life. The sound echoed in the valley, bringing a strange kind of hope with it. But just as they prepared to move, a sudden tremor shook the ground. The raiders tensed instantly and grabbed their weapons. Evan looked around, scanning the hills. Dust began to fall from the cliffs above them. Then he saw the source. A large desert crawler, shaped like a massive armored beast, pushed its way over the rocks. It was a mechanical creature used by bandits in this region. They attacked anyone they saw. Evan knew the raiders could not fight both the crawler and protect the supplies at the same time. He made a fast decision. He ran to the front of the transport truck and climbed onto the hood. He activated his visor's targeting system and aimed at the crawler's sensors. If he could blind it, the machine would retreat or wander away. The crawler charged down the hill, shaking the earth with every step. Its metal claws crushed stones and left long marks in the ground. Its glowing eyes locked onto the raiders and the transport. Evan steadied his weapon. He took a deep breath and fired. The shot hit the crawler's left eye. Sparks exploded, and the machine roared. It turned its head wildly, confused, but it still charged forward. Evan fired again, this time hitting the second eye. The crawler stumbled blindly. The raiders opened fire now, targeting its legs. Together, they forced the crawler to collapse onto the valley floor. After a final metallic groan, the great machine fell still. When the dust settled, the raiders looked at Evan with surprise. He had protected them. He had fought beside them. None of them had expected that. The leader nodded once. Respect. You could have left us, but you stayed. Remember this. We will not forget. Evan nodded back. Now we move. The colony needs the food. The raiders helped him attach the food crates to smaller hover carts. They loaded only the colony share, just as promised. Evan checked every crate, making sure nothing was missing. When everything was ready, he guided the hover carts back toward the hills. The raiders watched him go, raising their hands in silent respect. Evan began the long journey back to the colony. The sun was higher now, shining across the wasteland. The carts hummed behind him, gliding smoothly over the ground. He felt tired, but his heart felt light. He had done something important. He had helped not only the colony but also the raiders. He had found a way to stop people from harming each other. Hours passed. When he finally reached the edge of the colony, he saw movement between the ruined stalls. Shadows hid behind broken walls. Watching him, slowly, aliens began to step out, eyes wide with surprise. A human soldier was returning with food. Lyra was among the first to appear. She held her child close, her eyes full of fear and hope. When she saw Evan walking with the hover carts, she froze, unable to speak. Tears filled her eyes. Evan stopped a few steps away from her and gently lowered one of the crates. You and the others can eat now, he said softly. You are safe. Lyra covered her mouth with one hand. Her shoulders shook. She whispered something, but her voice cracked. The child in her arms reached toward Evan again. Just like before, families began to gather. Children peeked out from behind their parents. Weak elders walked forward with slow steps. No one could believe what they were seeing. Evan explained that the supplies were not stolen. They were shared. He explained that the raiders would no longer block the route. Peace was possible. The aliens began opening the crates, passing food to one another. Smiles spread across faces that had forgotten how to smile. Lyra knelt and placed her child on her lap, letting the tiny mouth drink warm, nutrient liquid again. This time, she ate too, without fear of running out. When she finished, she looked up at Evan with deep gratitude. Evan sat down on a piece of broken stone and removed his helmet. Lyra stepped closer. Her voice was still soft, but stronger than before. Our world will remember this. You changed our future, and you changed us. Evan shook his head lightly. I did what any person should do. Lyra disagreed. Not everyone would risk their life for strangers. Not everyone would face raiders alone. Not everyone would speak softly to a starving child and promise to return. You are not like others. You are something rare. Evan looked at the small infant, blinking up at him with curious eyes. The child grabbed his finger with its tiny hand. Evan smiled gently. Children should not grow up in fear. Maybe today we stopped that. Families gathered around, thanking him in quiet voices. Some bowed their heads. Some touched their hearts. Evan felt overwhelmed. He did not expect such a warm welcome. He helped organize the supplies, making sure every family received a fair share. He helped rebuild a few stalls, repairing broken pieces so they could store food safely. As he worked, he noticed how the colony slowly came back to life. People talked again. Laughter filled the air. Hope returned. Hours passed. When the sun began to set, Lyra approached him again. Her child slept peacefully against her shoulder. She looked at Evan with calm, clear eyes. Our people feared humans for so long, she said. But today a human saved us. Today everything changed. Evan nodded. Fear is powerful, but kindness is stronger. Lyra held her child close. We will tell our children about you. We will tell them how a human soldier walked alone into danger to save us. We will tell them you brought back the light. Evan felt a warm weight in his chest. He did not save them for praise, but hearing her words made him understand the importance of his actions. If humans and aliens learned to trust each other, even a little, the galaxy would become a better place. As night covered the colony, families settled into their shelters with full stomachs and renewed hope. Evan sat quietly near a fire, watching the stars appear one by one. Lyra sat nearby, humming softly to her child. The gentle sound filled the quiet night. Evan looked at the sky and whispered to himself, "This is what peace looks like. This is why we fight. Not to destroy, but to protect." He glanced at Lyra and her child. They were safe now. They would live. We. And somewhere deep inside the ruins, a new story began. A story of trust between humans and aliens. A story born from a simple plea, spoken with trembling lips. "Please, may I have the leftovers for my child?" Those words changed everything. Evan closed his eyes for a moment, letting the warm firelight touch his face. He felt tired, but peaceful. Tomorrow, he would send a full report to his base. Tomorrow, the colony would receive official support. But tonight he allowed himself to rest, knowing he had done something good, something meaningful. He had given hope to a world that had almost forgotten it. And hope